Hey kiddos! So this week we are continuing our trend of female artists. Even though it is no longer Women's Month, we are still going to be focusing on a female artist for this week's art project. And that artist, as you have learned from doing this project, or doing the video at least that goes along with it, is Georgia O'Keeffe. So the project that we're going to do is going to be in a similar style to her really famous one where she has that skull that is floating over that landscape. So we're going to start by sketching out our skull. You're going to need a pencil, you're going to need a Q-tip. I'm going to show you guys a blending technique you can do if you don't have a blending stump at home. A Q-tip works great. You will need an eraser, and then at the very end you will need something to add color with. I have a big old bag of colored markers that I will be using. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull up our photo of our bull skull or our cow skull and use it as a reference, and we're going to start sketching out basic shapes. Now, to do this, I want to make sure that things are accurate. So what I like to do is I like to use my fingers as like measurement tools. So what we're going to look at and see is if our horns, we can match up with anything else. And if we look at this picture in particular, it looks like the horn length from top to where the skull starts is about the same as the length of the whole skull. So I'm going to go ahead and start by just drawing out kind of where I think those things will start and end. So my horns will be up here, my skull is going to be in this area down here. This will be the top of the skull and the bottom. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to try to just sketch out some basic shapes. So it looks like I have this area up here where the horns are at, and then this area that kind of overlaps that part right here where the eyes are at on the skull. And then the rest of the skull is just kind of like a cylindrical shape. It almost looks like an ice cream cone right now. So I'm just going to try to get those shapes right. And then at the very top, I'm going to go ahead and draw a line down to the center where I think we're going to connect to the top of the skull. It's always better to start at the top and then work your way back down to where you're starting. It works better for me anyway. Now, because the skull is lacking any really major details that we can see, we really need to look at where we have shading or areas of value where we have medium grays, light grays, and that's going to be really what gives us our shape of the skull. Now that I have the skull basic shapes drawn out, the next thing that I need to do is go in and start adding details. So I'm going to go through and say, oh, I've got a little bit of shadow right here. It looks like the bull skull comes in. The eye socket's about right there. We just have a shadow going down where the eye would be if it was a live bull. And it comes in like this. We've got like a little cheekbone right here. Notice that these lines I'm doing are a little bit darker and a little bit bolder than what I previously did. I've got this line of symmetry that runs down the center of the skull. And then at the very bottom, I've got my little nose holes, which are just kind of these organic shapes that are not exactly alike. They're a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and draw those. And then it looks like I can see through the back, so I'm just going to draw a little rounded line right there. And it looks like that line is really close. And done. The hard part is almost done. We still need to go back in and add some more details. Looks like I have this kind of crack that goes between the two eyes. Now what you're going to do is you're going to grab your Q-tip, have it close by. We're going to try to go through and add some shading. If I look at my image, my skull is a little bit darker underneath where the eyes are. I also have an area where there's more contrast, or there's a darker shade of value against this white right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and use a little bit of value there. I've also got some shading lines about right here. Maybe I don't even have to erase for this. That'd be kind of great. And I have Kat coming up here to help us out. I'm trying to prevent the cat from coming over and helping. We'll see if that works. So I'm just going through, really looking at my image and seeing where else I can add some shadow, add some shading and some value before I blend this out. So what this is doing is it's blending out my pencil lines, it's dragging some of that lead down, and it's just making this look a little bit more interesting in terms of value. So the next thing we need to do is draw our antlers, or our horns, I should say. They're not really antlers, I believe we would call them horns. So because I have this already sketched out, all I need to do is continue this line and try to keep it that same width as we get down, and do the same thing over here. And the same thing you do with the skull. Really take a look at where the shading is, where the value is, and we're not gonna do anything too intense with this. We're just gonna make that bottom part a little bit darker of a shadow. Just like that. Okay, so now that this is done, we are going to go ahead and add our background. So I want to do a combination of warm colors and cool colors. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make my mountains kind of like this blue, purpley, cool color, and then my sky, I'm going to play with doing some different red and orange variations. So we have this blend of both warm and cool colors in this. Always start by drawing your horizon line, which is where the earth and the sky meets. And then I'm gonna go ahead and have some mountains on my horizon line that are overlapping. So remember, that's when one is in front of the other. And we're gonna have it look a little asymmetrical since our skull is right in the center, but you can do this however you like. All right, Joe, and that's just about it. I still might go through and just find some different areas to play with line a little bit more. And again, these lines aren't necessarily in the style of Georgia O'Keeffe. I feel like this is a little bit more Van Gogh-like on my behalf, because I sure do love me some Vincent van Gogh influence. You don't have to copy mine though completely. I'm just showing you things that you could do, but I definitely encourage you guys, you've been making art all year, to make your own artistic choices. Play with line, play with color. I ended up outlining mine with Micron just because I thought it looked a little bit better, but really just have fun with this. We haven't made art in a few weeks, so I hope that this is an easier project to warm up into and that you guys enjoy it, you have fun, and I can't wait to see your work. All right, you guys, have a great week, and looking forward to seeing your stuff.